if I didn't see you last Sunday, I do hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas. I hope everyone had a wonderful New Year. As I share quite a bit of the time, I call them my sister and my nieces all the time. We do the FaceTime thing all the time. About a month and a half ago, I guess, I was talking to my sister on the phone, and they were getting ready to go actually to St. Louis for Thanksgiving parade. They were at part of the parade. It was kind of cool. They were little Girl Scouts. But I was asking them, is there any chance you know what Santa's going to bring the girls? And because it's their first Christmas in St. Louis since they moved back. So since my sisters moved back, it's my nieces who are 7 and 5, I believe. No, 6 and 8 right now. It's their first Christmas ever in St. Louis. A little different than North Alabama. Jonathan can probably tell you that. A little different probably weather. And my sister said, you know, all these Barbies, all this, but then she goes, actually, it's my first year. I'm planning to get them a sled. So she was so excited about getting them a Christmas sled. But then she heard the forecast was going to snow a little early, so then she went ahead and gave the girls a sled a little early, but then it didn't snow. And I remember one day FaceTiming my niece, you know, a week or two after that. It's a couple weeks before Christmas, and little Caroline, I don't have the picture, I didn't have time for that, but it's just this picture of her sitting on her sled by the door. I'm waiting for it to snow. She was so disappointed. It didn't snow yet. And well, fast forward now a month later, she received her snow, right? On Christmas even. Well, you know, all of a sudden, though, I started having these like flashbacks of when I lived in St. Louis. Some of you, you know, it's like living in weather where you had all these snows, and just remembering the snow days. I know some of you, if you work there, working adults and just adults in general, it's a mess, you know, driving in it. It's a mess, the ice, and I've been there, you know. I drove to seminary in it. I drove to churches. I went to a church. I preached at for like 1/4 the congregation to be there, you know. I've been there. I've done that. And in fact, Shannon Weaver's having a snowball event to celebrate that we're not in the snow. Yet whenever I think about snow, I think about that passage I read in James 4. It's just that one little verse. I think it's verse 14. But your life is just like, you're like this vapor or this mist. It's here one moment, and it's just gone the next. It's just like that snow. It's here, but then the next moment, it's gone. And I keep in mind, the writer of James, tradition says, Jesus' brother. And Jesus' brother, the context here, he gets some people are confessing Jesus, some people are believing in Jesus, but he's a little disappointed because not everyone, though, who's believing in Jesus, confessing Jesus, are like living their lives for Jesus, though. So it's a very practical book of the Bible, and he wants people's lives to be to look outward like that. In the way James would say, you know, words are kind of cheap. But you need to have the lifestyle of Jesus. So in one way, so what are you doing with your life to reflect that life of Jesus? How is your life looking? And one of the ways I thought about this is, how do we deal with our time? Time is one of the biggest gifts that we have in part of life. I mean, time in itself. It's here one moment and gone the very next. Think about it this way. I came up with this analogy. Think if every morning I would have a black, red sack, whatever you call it. I have a sack of money, and I would go up to every single one of your homes, and on the front porch, I would leave you a nice sized black bag of $1,440, and I would do that. Now, there are a couple rules though. Each day you could use it, but you can't stash it away. You'd have to spend every single dollar. I'm going to give you $1,440 single dollars. There's no overdraft protection. You can't get more. You can't save more. And at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to your front porch, and I'm going to take the leftovers. How many of you would figure a way of how to do with that money? You would get outside your house, take that money, spend it in all kinds of different ways that you could. I expect some way you would get your money from the porch. I can't imagine you would just leave it there for someone to pick it up. You would probably rush out and use it in some way. See, time's this relentless lender. Each and every morning, it dumps 1,440 minutes on your doorstep. You can't save it. You can't borrow more of it. So the question is for this morning, how do you use it? Do we use it? Do we waste it? Do we take it for granted? Each and every morning, this gift is renewed, and at the end of the day, it fades away. So I want to spend the rest of the sermon, I want to just share a couple of practical truths. I think this snow day kind of remind us how to, in relation to our time in this new year. And the first point I want to make is snow days force us to slow down. Have you ever been in the snow? Forces you to slow down. Unless you're one of those drivers. And we might have a couple of those drivers, but it makes you slow down in your day. And if we can't slow down ourselves, it's kind of unique that God always has a way to make us. We're constantly in a rush, going here, going there, proof the grocery store. When's the last time you went? Who goes to the checkout? Who scopes out the shortest checkout lane? Most of us do. Please don't tell me I'm only one. And you get in the lane, and you make sure another one is not getting short. If not, you jump to that lane. Why? Just to get home for what? But we're constantly in a rush. And yet we do this, and I think when we're in a rush so often, we miss out on so much of the beauty right in front of us just today. You know, serving as a reading pal over at GLAD, some of you might know one of the favorite books all the kids like to read. Brady and I read to all the kids after I read my reading pals. They always like to read Pete the Cat. Some of you, yep, they know what Pete the Cat is. And there's a story with Pete the Cat, though. He has this bicycle. It's on a race, and he wants to ride his bike. He can't get anyone to ride his bike with him. So he gets Mr. Turtle. But Mr. Turtle has a sports car. Mr. Turtle just books it with a sports car. But you got Pete the Cat just riding on his bicycle. He sees a flower, beautiful flower. He stops and looks at the flowers. He sees a nice little area over here to have a picnic. He stops and has a nice little picnic. Later on, Turtle's about to finish the race and win. He decides to go and take a nap. And he sleeps, falls asleep. Later on, Pete the Cat ends up winning the race. And I just think, how often, though, do we miss just looking around at the scenery right around us, and we're just so busy just racing to the end? Do you ever notice the beauty just right in front of you? Right here today, right here when we look outside our beautiful sanctuary. I heard a quote before that said, "Enjoy the little things in life. One day you'll look back and realize they were the big things." Enjoy those little things in life. One day you'll look back and you'll realize those were the big things. Number two, I think snow days, they remind us of what is essential. What's essential in our lives? Warm shelter, check. Food, check. Clothing, check. Everything else, hanging with friends, check. Family, check. Everything else is just fluff. It's just fluff. And from time to time, even Jesus had to remind his own friends about this. Remember the story, I believe it's found in Luke's Gospel, John's Gospel, about Mary and Martha. Jesus is visiting with some of his friends, and we had Mary, which was actually not acceptable at the time, but she was right there in the living room with Jesus and paying attention to Jesus' teaching. And then you had Martha kind of doing the right traditional thing in the kitchen. And she was in the kitchen cooking, and while Mary was just off over here, and then finally Martha just has enough. Enough. I'm doing everything. I'm stirring things up. I'm being showing good hospitality. I mean, that's what women do then. I mean, and Mary's just sitting here. So she tells Jesus, go tell her. And Jesus does what he typically usually does. He reverses it. And says, no. Listen up. or famous words, Martha, Martha, you have been distracted by so many things, but Mary is doing what's most important, and it will not be taken away from her. And I wonder how much of our lives we spend doing things that are not so much the essential. And maybe things that aren't necessarily bad or evil in themselves, but nevertheless, they take us away from the things that are essential. And maybe a little more modern analogy, closer to home, you remember when Hurricane Irma came, I remember on the news stations, on the internet websites, everyone had all the hurricane kits, basically, what you needed to have, and from food to important documents. I noticed not on any one of those it said like flat screen TVs or golf clubs. But it only had the essentials on what you need. And I just think we need to be careful this coming year to be like Mary, who remembers the essentials. And let's not get caught up in the rest of the life. I think the third thing that snow days reveal is they reveal our lies. They reveal the lie that oftentimes we say, I have so much to do today. I'm too busy for. My work is so important. And the truth is, no you don't, no you're not, and no it isn't. And trust me, this is coming from someone who loves what he does. This is someone who's been caught up in every single one of these lies. When I was serving in the United Methodist Church, some of you might know it's pretty common every 2 to 4 years a pastor moves. Maybe later you move a little less often, but nevertheless you move quite a bit. And it's a very humbling experience knowing you move after 2 years or 3 years, and someone else is just going to come right plopping in your office. Going to put their name right on your door. And you know what? They're going to change things up. They're going to stop some things, and they're going to probably start some new things. And as a good pastor, you have to wish them well. And you do. And more than likely, the church continues to move. And God is present, and God's working in that. And 4, I wanted to share with you. We talked about snow days remind us to slow down. They remind us of the essentials. They reveal our lies about busyness. But 4th, they just remind us sometimes to go out and play. Go build that snowman. Enjoy life. When is the last time you've ever thought about what brings you joy in your life? When's the last time you've ever asked the question of what makes you happy? What speaks to your life? And how often are you doing that? How often are you taking time in those areas that give you joy? And finally, I want to share one more, is the snow days demonstrate who really is in control. And there's a hint. It's not us. And it reminds us to let go of the small things, or the little things that get us all wound up. And just remember that God's in control. You know, one of the beautiful parts I like to do is I just like to go down to the beach, and I like to see the waves move. It's a time where I don't make the waves move. I don't raise my hands for them to move, but they just do. It reminds me someone else is ultimately in control. And we say the same about our snow analogy. As a kid, I might have wished for it to snow. I might have snuck in a prayer for it to snow. But God, not me, makes it snow. It reminds us that God is ultimately in control. And thank goodness He is. I was talking to my sister the other day, and my little niece, she was sitting down in her sled, and the same little niece, Caroline, who said she was waiting for it to snow. This time, Kara said, Caroline, she's just really disappointed. She's crying. Why? Her snowman's melting. It's slowly going away. And I want you to think about this upcoming year. Think about even just today. Be careful with your tongue. Remember, it's a gift. We have 1,440 minutes dumped each day at our doorsteps. How are we using them? For some of us here, maybe we need to slow down. And just let that be your message today. For some of us, maybe we need to really focus on the essentials in life. It's not so much we're doing bad, horrible things, but maybe God's telling you this year, this is what you need to focus on. Focus on maybe spending more time with me in prayer. Focus on helping out someone. Focus on, helping a friend and not your own troubles. Maybe this is the year we remember to let go of these lies about our busyness. Maybe this is the year we need to take time and find joy. Make time to play. Make time to build that snowman. Maybe this is the year that we remember to let go of some of those little things that get us so wound up, and we remember that God's in control. Friends, hope everyone here has this happy new year, and remember the snow days, because remember James's words one more time. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Amen. At this time,